Hi, my name is Valeria, and I love to solo travel. I've been lucky enough to be able to go to countries like Sweden, Denmark, Greece, Portugal, and I'm currently planning a little spontaneous weekend solo trip getaway to Iceland in October, which I'm super, super excited about. So I feel like I've had my fair share of solo trips to be able to make this video. So in today's video, I'm going to give you kind of the rundown on how to start solo traveling because it can be really stressful. It can be overwhelming. So I'm here to make your life just a little bit easier. It's a rainy day in New York. I got my cozy little lamp on, I got my mini mic. I've got my notes in my notebook. So I'm ready to make this video and I'm ready to help you book that first trip. So let's get started. Okay, so before we begin with all the fun stuff, I feel like it's really important for me to mention that solo travel is not for everyone. I feel like on social media, sometimes solo travel can seem like this picture perfect, unforgettable thing, which don't get me wrong, it is so unforgettable and so life changing and so amazing, but it does have its downsides. And I do just want to put that out there because it may not be for you, and that is totally okay. It takes time to build confidence, and you might not be the super social and like outgoing person at first, and that is totally okay. That's the whole point of a solo trip. It's for you to get out of your comfort zone, meet new people, learn new cultures. But yes, I'm not gonna lie, solo trip has its lonely, boring moments. But honestly, that happens to everyone. You might shed a little tear, and that's okay. Honestly, a little tear never hurts. And I feel like they add to the plot of the trip. And I'm not saying this in like a bad way. I just wanted to throw that out there because I feel like you need to hear a little realistic side of solo travel before we get into all the fun stuff. So now that we're done with that, let's get into the fun stuff, the planning. When choosing your destination, I feel like the first question you have to ask yourself is, what is your priority? I am a female solo traveler, so I know that I will always, always, always prioritize safety. That is my number one priority. I will put that above anything else just because I want to know that where I'm going is safe, it's easy to get around, and I won't feel uncomfortable, which is the worst feeling when you're traveling, especially by yourself and as a woman. Honestly, I'm going to say the word research like 500 times in this video, but I think it is the most important part when planning a trip. You have to do the proper research. When I first started solo traveling, I really relied on TikTok, which I think is such an amazing platform to kind of research where you want to go. You can search up on TikTok like best solo travel destinations as a woman, and so many cities are going to show up. I have curated my own list of places that I have been to and that I want to go to that I know are safe, and I'll list that in the description because I just want to help you on and put some little cities you can start off with. But yeah, you can go there and see what cities are considered the most safe for women. I also feel like it's really important to note that even though a country may be considered safe, some cities may not be considered safe. So don't think that because someone said Portugal is super safe, you can go anywhere in Portugal. No, make sure that the city you are staying at, the city you're leaving from, the city your city you're arriving to is safe. Again, it's just a matter of doing the proper research to make sure that where you're staying and where you're going to be most of your trip is a good area. And I think it's also really important for you to focus on the weather and transportation because let me tell you, you may probably not think it's that big of a deal, but it is. I wish I did more research when I went to Stockholm and Copenhagen earlier this year. And when I was buying the trip, I was like, oh my God, it's only a $300 plane ticket. I figured out why. It's because the weather is just not good during that time. I'm not going to lie, my experience there was not everything I hoped it would be just because the weather wasn't what I was expecting it to be. So definitely do your research because weather can kind of be a big influence in how your trip goes. Another thing is transportation. Just make sure that the city you're staying in has really good transportation. Most big cities do. They usually have like a good metro system or a good bus system, but just make sure that if you're doing like a little day trip to a small town, or even if you're staying in a small town, there's good transportation there because nothing is worse than when you're stranded somewhere with no Wi-Fi and you don't know where to go. I am saying that from personal experience. That was a really bad moment for me, but hey, we learn from our mistakes. Now, if you want to be a little bit more spontaneous and you're not too picky of where you're going, I highly recommend Google Flights. Google Flights is the best ever. It is such an amazing platform for flights. Duh, that's what I call Google Flights. Anyways, basically, you go on the website, you choose the airport you're leaving from, and then if you don't really know where you're going, you just kind of want to be spontaneous and see where the wind takes you. You can put anything from an airport to a continent, or you can even put anywhere, and a bunch of cities are going to show up. If you're also not too picky about the time, I know like some people have very specific dates because, I don't know, they have PTO they want to use, or I don't know, they have a week off from school and they want to go. 1,000% you can put those dates in there. But if you're not too picky, if you have like all of summer free, or you're just doing nothing and you just want to do something, you can be flexible with your dates. You can put like a weekend within the next 6 months. You can do a week within the next 6 months. Really, you can be super flexible, which is such an amazing feature about Google Flights that I absolutely love. So once you put in all that information, it's going to give you a list of cities and you kind of go from there. I did this for my Iceland trip that I'm about to book, and I put my dates, I put the airport I'm departing from, JFK, and Iceland showed up. It was a list of a bunch of cities, and I've heard that Iceland is a very safe country for female solo travelers. So I knew to do more research on Iceland, and that's how I decided to do Iceland. So I would kind of go through that list and do my research and see what city out of that list is the safest for me, what is, I guess, maybe an affordable city, do they have good transportation, how's the weather. I would just do more research on that and kind of decide where I want to go. Now that we have the destination, it's time to decide the stay. So I'm not going to give you a right answer on where you should stay because I think it completely depends on what your goal for your trip is. For example, when I went to Scandinavia earlier this year, I knew I wanted that trip to be like a true solo trip. I knew I wanted to be by myself. I didn't really want it to be social. I wanted to have my own private room. So in that case, I looked at hotels, and because I'm on a budget, I looked at affordable hotels. So I used booking.com, which is such an amazing platform. I love booking.com. Okay. If you have an account, they usually always have like some type of little deal and always some type of little discount for hotels, flights, even like attractions. You can look at all the reviews through there. It's an amazing platform. On the other hand, when I went to Portugal, like maybe a month and a half ago, I knew I wanted that trip to be social. I wanted to go out. I wanted to meet people. So in that case, I looked only at hostels. So that's why I feel like there isn't a right or wrong answer. It's completely up to you and whatever you want, because I know everyone has different needs. But I can speak from experience when I say that booking.com, I feel like, is such an amazing platform for hotels. And when looking for hostels, Hostel World is an amazing platform. Hostels have changed a lot over the years. I feel like a couple years ago, everyone thought hostels to be this like unhygienic, creepy, dark, and scary, sketchy place, but it has completely changed over the years. And now hostels are literally looking like five-star hotels. It's insane. I personally love, love, love hostels. I've never had a bad experience in any of the ones I've stayed at. But when looking for where to stay, I also rely a lot on TikTok just because stay is such an important part to me. I want to feel safe. I'm sleeping there at the end of the day. So I just want to know that I'm going to be comfortable and I'm going to be cozy and I'm going to be safe. So for example, let's say you're going to Rome. I would put like hostels in Rome, and that's when you kind of start seeing a pattern. So when I see a hostel just keep popping up, I kind of go on a whole deep dive of that hostel and stalk them, basically. Some people may think I'm kind of crazy for this, but I want to know that I am safe. Okay, so no one judge me. I start going on their Instagram. I start looking at their stories, their posts. I do more research on them on TikTok. I go there, I look at the reviews, what people are saying, and I see if I want to stay there. So some things I look for in a hostel are good location. I want to know that I'm going to be like in a good area, especially if I'm in a city like Lisbon, for example. I want it to be in the center of Lisbon, or just, in a general good area. I want to know that the workers at this hostel are nice and friendly, because I have heard horror stories of creepy workers. So I want to know that the staff are great, they're kind, they're friendly. Something that's also super important, especially about hostels, is kind of making sure that your crowd is staying there. I personally want to know that I'm staying somewhere that has people my age staying there as well. There's some hostels that only like older people stay at just because they need somewhere to stay. They don't really want to be social. And there's other hostels that are more like social party hostels. And I really recommend those if you're young and if you want to have a good time and if you want to meet people. Those are a great, great option. In terms of safety within a hostel, I always book a female only dorm. I personally do not want to share a room with men. That is just me. That is my preference. If you don't mind that, then go for it. Go stay in a mixed dorm. That is very, very common. So if you're like me and that's really important for you, I would really suggest booking a female only dorm. Okay, now that we have our flight and our stay, I'm going to touch a little bit more on transportation, which I mentioned already, but I'm going to get a little bit more specific because transportation is a really big part of travel and it can get a little stressful when you're doing it by yourself. If your destination is somewhere that you know requires renting a car and that's something you'd like to do, I would suggest doing a lot of research, as I said before, on renting a car in that specific country because I know every country, I can only speak for Europe because that's where I've only done my solo travel. I know in Europe, every country is different. They all have different requirements for drivers. So you may not be of age to drive in that specific country. You may not have the specific paperwork. So yeah, I would just make sure that I have all the things necessary to be able to rent a car because that might be a little bit of an issue once you get there if you don't have the proper paperwork. So kind of just be conscious of that. Now, if you're planning to kind of bop around country to country and you plan on taking a train or a bus, I highly recommend booking all of that in advance because I have noticed that the closer you get to the date, the more expensive the prices are for these trains or buses. So just so everything's organized and just so you don't have to worry about any of this, I would book all of that beforehand. If you're taking the bus, I personally recommend the Flixbus. If you've solo traveled before, if you've been to Europe, if you just are on the travel side of TikTok, you know that there is a love-hate relationship with the Flixbus. I personally love the Flixbus. I think it is an amazing and affordable way to get to wherever you need to go. It is a very common form of transportation in Europe, especially if you're bopping around like city to city, country to country. And I think it's a great way to get to where you need to go at a very affordable price. The buses, I believe, are very comfortable. They have Wi-Fi. They're clean. I love the Flixbus. Now the train, I find to get a little tricky. That's why I don't tend to take the train much unless I need to. I would have that ready as well because the train doesn't leave as often as like a Flixbus would. So I would make sure that I have my times correct and that I have everything planned just in case because I don't want anything to go wrong. Well, now we have the flight, the stay, the transportation, and now it's time to get to the fun part, the activities. The most important thing I can say in this video, actually, that's a lie. I have a lot of important things I need to say, but one of the most important things you need to know is that you should not have very strict plans when planning your activities or excursions. Of course, if you have been wanting to go to a specific place in this specific city or country for a very long time, go buy that ticket. Of course, go. I knew when I went to Stockholm, I knew I wanted to go to the ABBA Museum. That was like a yes or yes situation. There was no saying no to that, okay? So, of course, if you have museums you want to go to, maybe some like specific sites you want to see, buy those tickets, go to them. But when I say do not have strict plans, I mean please give yourself time to just explore. The whole point of solo travel is that you are alone in a foreign country, okay? You are young, you are free, and you are alone. So go out, go explore, and get lost, okay? In a safe way. I do say that in a safe way, okay? Please do not do something stupid, but you know what I'm saying. Please just give yourself time to put your phone in your bag and walk. Okay, just walk. I love to get lost in, well, in the general area. I'm not trying to go somewhere sketchy. Stay in like the city or the town you're in and just walk around. Find a random little coffee shop in a corner and sit down and read a book. Go to this viewpoint that is kind of hidden and you didn't know even existed. Just explore because trust me, I can say this from personal experience, and some of the best memories from your trip will be the moments that you never even planned. One big tip I can give you is please talk to the locals, learn their stories, tell them your story, get to know them because it is such an unforgettable thing is getting to meet all of these amazing people that live in this small town or in this big city in Europe and they will tell you the real spots to go to. I, for example, when I went to Stockholm, I like keep mentioning all my trips. But when I went to Stockholm earlier this year, I went into this random bakery as I was just exploring and I began talking to the woman that worked there and it was just me and her in this tiny little bakery and I got to know her. She got to know me. She told me about all of the like authentic food spots in Stockholm. She told me where I should go and I did just that. I went to every place she told me to go to and I loved it. I would have never experienced those places if it wasn't for her, if I didn't talk to her. And I know it can get a little intimidating talking to random people, but trust me, the locals love it when you ask them questions. They love their city for the most part. At least the ones I've talked to, they love their city. They want to share it with other people and they want to share the beauty of it with other people. So please talk to as many people as you can because it will be an unforgettable experience. Okay, I think it's time for some final words now that we have our entire trip planned. I'm so excited for you. I want you to know that it is okay to be nervous, it is okay to be scared, and it is okay to make mistakes. Let me repeat myself. Let me repeat myself. It is okay to make mistakes. God knows I have made so many mistakes on all of my trips, okay? But trust me when I tell you that all of those mistakes have taught me so much. And now I know for all of my future trips what not to do and what to do. I may have shed a tear in the moment, but that's okay because now I can laugh about it. It was a funny memory and I learned from it. And that's all that matters. Be proud of yourself. Okay. It's insane that you have the opportunity to even plan a trip like this. A lot of people don't feel comfortable doing these types of trips. A lot of people are scared to do them, but you're actually doing something about it, which is amazing. I will say one thing social media does not lie about is how amazing solo travel really is. Speaking from personal experience, it completely changed my life. I have only lived on this planet for 20 years, but some of my favorite moments of life have been from my solo trips. So people are not lying when they say it is truly an unforgettable experience. And you'll see that the more you travel, the more grateful you'll be. And you'll realize how tiny you really are on this earth. And nothing was ever that serious. So you could just live your life, do whatever you want, and just go book those trips. Go to multiple cities, okay? Because money comes and goes, but you only live once. I'm crying. I feel like Dr. Phil right now. I feel like I'm giving so much advice. It's so funny. Okay. So please just have so much fun. If you're planning a trip soon, if you're going on a trip soon, please have so much fun. Remember every moment, live in the moment, and record everything, whether it's on your phone, in a journal, just remember it all because it will be some of the best moments of your life. So, yeah, I think that is everything I have to say for now. I feel like I have multiple more videos that I need to make because I have a lot to say, but this is just like a general guide on how to start solo traveling. So, I hope my tips and advice were helpful to you, and I will be making another video very shortly on more tips and tricks. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you very, very soon.